Premier Stranger or Slog Newsmaker's interview with Representative Jay Inslee from the 1st District. Just a couple quick questions for you, Congressman. You voted against the Military Commissions Act, and the majority leader told the Washington Post the next day, quote, "The Democrats' irrational opposition to strong national security policy should be of great concern to the American people. To always have reasons why you just can't vote yes, I think speaks volumes when it comes to which party is better able and more willing to take on the terrorists." How do you respond to that?
I think this was the majority leader that let a child predator run amok through Congress. I think this is the gentleman you referred to. We'll just put that in context.
Okay.
These guys basically have no fundamental understanding of America. In American democracy, we have a very important principle, and it's called checks and balances. And that's based on the assumption that no president, no premier, no king is vested with some divine right to make decisions so that they're never wrong. We think it's a fundamental concept of American democracy, of checks and balances, so that we have some check on executive authority. And even George Bush, as perfect as he is, isn't always right. And we need to have an ability to check him when he's wrong. And that check system in our democracy is called the judicial system. It's the courts. And we have a system called the writ of habeas corpus that for 230 years has protected Americans from abuses by their president. And these people in Congress, the Republicans, wanted to get rid of 230 years of American democracy that allows this check on presidential authority. And they can bang the drum, they can call us yellow-bellied cowards as much as they want, but I was not going to allow them to get rid of a fundamental aspect of American democracy. So I'm proud of that vote to keep the writ of habeas corpus. I'd do it 1,000 times, and I'll do it again. And John Boehner can make as much noise as he wants. And we'll be damned if we're going to let Osama bin Laden drive us over the cliff to the loss of our civil liberties. We are not going to let him win. You know, George Bush said, what do they hate about us? They hate our freedoms. So what do the Republicans want to do? Give away our freedoms. You know, that's a loss in the war on terrorism. So I'm very, very happy to stand up for the writ of habeas corpus and the right to keep our executive in check.
Mark Foley, did you see that one coming?
Well, obviously that was, not something on the top of my radar screen. But I do think that I saw a continuation of the ethical disaster that the House of Representatives has become. Under this Republican leadership, they truly have created a culture that allows ethical lapses.
Is Doc Hastings part of the problem?
I have been disappointed in the Ethics Committee in not being more aggressive. I was disappointed when they essentially fired the Republican Joe Heffley when he slapped the hands 3 times of Tom DeLay. What did Dennis Hastert do? Fired the Ethics Committee. This is the same Dennis Hastert who did not respond, I don't believe, adequately to this scandal with Representative Foley. There was no excuse when this investigation started not to tell the Democrats about it. There's no reason for that to have happened. And my view is, the Republicans have pushed this idea of 3 strikes and you're out. Well, there ought to be a 4 strikes and you're out provision. Right now we've had Ney, DeLay, Cunningham, and Foley. 4 terrible ethical scandals under the leadership of Dennis Hastert, and the voters need to fire these people and get somebody in there that can run a tighter ship.
January 2007, the 110th Congress, Democrats are in control. What's the first order of business? Are we going to see some subpoenas?
Probably not going to be the first order of business. And there is going to be significant increased oversight over the executive branch, and I do believe that's important to do. This Congress has basically let the executive branch, President Cheney, Rumsfeld, the whole crew, run amok with virtually no oversight. As a result of that, we've had a disaster in Iraq. We've got massive loss of taxpayer money by the billions of dollars in Iraq. We've got an energy policy that's been a disaster. We've seen Katrina and what happened in Katrina with virtually no oversight. So there's no question Congress needs to fulfill an obligation of oversight to Americans.
Well, what does that mean, oversight?
Oversight means basically we need to find out what the executive is doing, where their failures are, who is failing, who is responsible for it, and how do you fix that. Basically, this Congress under the Republicans have buried all of the skeletons in the Bush administration and haven't brought to light. So it is our obligation, but I think we don't want to do that out of vindictiveness. We don't want to do that out of anger. We are frustrated by what the Bush administration has done, but we need to do it out of a motivation of trying to fix government, rather than payback time.
Okay.
So subpoenas aren't going to be the first thing, but there are going to be subpoenas, and there rightfully should be, and we should be aggressive but honest when we do it. I serve on the Oversight and Investigation Committee, subcommittee of the Energy and Commerce Committee, and I can tell you, yes, we're going to be vigorous, and we're going to be right, and we're going to uncover some truth that ought to be Americans need to know about.
Last week, you told me that Mayor Nichols of Seattle may be missing a major opportunity to make a fundamental change with his viaduct decision. What did you mean by that?
I do think, and I would encourage all of us, including Seattle, to look for any alternative we can to reduce CO2 emissions. And Mayor Nichols has been a good force in trying to work to reduce Seattle's greenhouse gas emissions. But I do hope that as we go forward in looking at this, that we look for new ways to increase mass transit that will reduce CO2 emissions. And I hope that which way this project goes, that we will maximize to the extent humanly possible mass transit and public transit that by its nature is going to reduce CO2 emissions. So if there is a tunnel option, or if there is a aerial option, or if there is just a ground option, whatever option is used, I'm hopeful that we'll find the most intensive use of public transit that we can. I'm not sure we're there yet. I'm not satisfied that we've maximized those alternatives to date. And I am concerned about the funding options. All of us are going to be looking to it to see that, in fact, there's revenues to pay for whatever option is proposed. You don't want to get to a situation where you've only got 2/3 of the revenues available. And we're all going to be taking a real close look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.